Welcome to this week's episode of Pig-Headed and Well-Read. I am your host, Ethan Rowley, here with my friend and co-host, Nate Skidmore. This episode, we're covering chapters 10 through 14, and as always, this is a spoiler-free pod. Anything from chapters 1 to 14 is ready for us to talk about. Anything afterwards, we will not be touching. We'll be releasing episodes weekly every Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and our YouTube channel, and we're covering roughly 50 pages of East of Eden with each chunk of episode. You can also follow us on our social media account at Pigheaded and Well Read. If you're reading along with us and have your own insights, comments, jokes, memes, corrections, whatever, feel free to email us at pigheadedandwellread@gmail.com. Quick content warning before we get into things. Due to East of Eden's complex story and characters, throughout this read-along, we might touch on some mature and complex themes, including violence, abuse, suicide, alcoholism, racism, war, death, and sex work. If these topics are difficult for you, please listen with care. Nate, as we hop in episode 3, what are you most looking forward to?
What I like most about this section of chapters is just how wild Adam's story gets right away, where it's like he's lived a very kind of normal, predictable life, and then all of the sudden, real right turn as far as what's happening here. So, looking forward to talking about Adam and then how he interacts with Kathy. So,
sounds great. Without further ado, let's kick it back to our past selves. Okay, 3-sentence wrap up or recap of chapters 10 through 14. I'll try to make it brief. Kathy shows up at Charles and Adam's house, badly bruised, and Adam quickly falls in love with her despite Charles realizing probably who she is from the beginning. Adam convinces Kathy to marry him and run off despite Charles' protests, and Kathy drugs him and sleeps with Charles the night before they leave. And then to wrap this up, Kathy is pregnant, tries to do a self-abortion. They move to Salinas Valley. So I think that's about
that
it.
covers it. All right, pod over.
Yeah.
Good work. Thanks for coming. Very cool. All right, well, I have chapter 10, right? Because I'm evens.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I will jump right into it. So your 3-sentence recap, you just started after this chapter. I don't know if you because
Yeah.
you were just
It's an
like
important
this
chapter,
chapter
but
boring to me. Don't care. Um,
I knew from the first episode when I made my sentences run-on sentences that I needed to probably be a little more brief, so I cut this one out.
that's fair. That's fair. Well, this chapter did have some interesting stuff. So, chapter 10. Charles and Adam are living together now. It kind of mentions some of the difficulties, some very natural dude on bro kind of conflicts they're running into.
Mm-hmm.
They're obviously extremely wealthy because their dad willed them what in those times probably worth, what in today's amount of money would be millions of dollars. And I just thought it was funny. It mentioned that Charles is like constantly worried that they're going to have to give it back,
Mm-hmm.
that someone's going to show up and like Adam asks him like, "Why don't you spend some of the money, like buy some new clothes?" And Charles is like, "They're gonna make me pay the money back. I can't." Um,
He's so worried.
no, it is relatable because when I did door to door pest control sales, um, the way the
Flex.
payment works is like you get a big chunk. Um, you get it in like big chunks at a time, and so like October after you spend the whole summer, they give you like 70% of your earnings for the year in a big check, and suddenly as a 19-year-old 20-year-old, you have more money than you've ever thought of having. But it's not taxed, like, and they tell you this, they're like the money you're getting is not taxed at all. So like when you file for taxes, you're not going to file for a return, you're going to pay your taxes. um
Yikes.
and so like I remember getting that money and like not wanting to spend any of it at all because I was like I'm gonna spend the money and then they're gonna be like, you owe us everything. Like have to give it all back. And
Yeah.
so I know what
No, same.
Charles was feeling there.
The IRS terrifies me. I've never met an IRS representative, but it always feels like it's looming. Not that I'm
Yeah, no,
committing tax fraud, IRS listener.
they want the worst for us. But anyway, yeah. So Charles is worried about it. And him and Adam kind of fight. They have these kind of brotherly back and forths, like wake up, stop telling me to wake up, like you would if you lived with your brother.
Hmm.
Um, and then like every time they do it, like Charles just gets mad. He's like, "Why don't you leave?" And then Adam like just keeps leaving. Like Adam like
Yeah.
leaves, and I thought it was funny because he leaves for like it says 6 months, yeah, 8 months. He leaves for 8 months and comes back, and Charles is like, "Where did
Hmm.
you go?" And he's like, "Boston." And then they don't elaborate at all. And I thought it was funny because like Boston's now this like shrouded mystery city where like people go and there's no explanation. Like Kathy went to Boston,
Yeah.
just came back one sentence later with no explanation of why. Like now Adam went to Boston, comes back, won't doesn't elaborate. Like, all right, sure, dude.
Yeah.
Um,
One thing I thought that was funny too is like before he leaves for that 8 months is like it seems like the straw that breaks the camel's back is him not wiping his knife before sticking it in the butter, which I
uh-huh.
wholeheartedly agree. I almost need my own stick of butter for myself.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I just think when you live with your brother, like it will be the smallest thing, like the knife in the butter, that'll
Hmm.
be like, I wish you would leave forever. Like, so anyway, so they keep having these back and forths, and um, I don't know. There's some fun talk about like neither of them are married. Adam reveals that he's 36, which I didn't know. That we had been told they were 16, and then like they'd be like, then 5 years passed, then 6 years passed, and then like you never knew. So now we know he's firmly 36 years old in this
Hmm.
chapter. They talk about how they're not married, how they're wasting their lives. Um, I thought it was funny that like Charles talks about this school teacher that came to town that him and everyone was crushing on, and
Hmm.
he says like a girl that pretty don't got no right in this town. And it's
Yeah.
like it's like how poorly do you think of your town that you see a beautiful woman and you're like, she shouldn't be here. Like she like no one that pretty should be. And like apparently everyone agreed because they all like kicked her out. And so
Hmm.
um
I think
tough.
the
It's hard.
frequent visits to the whorehouses has maybe poisoned his image of what a woman is.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know. She was showing her ankles.
She was showing ankles.
That's tempting in the late 1800s. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, anyway. And then there's kind of a funny exchange at kind of towards the end of this chapter, um, where Charles brings up the $100 bill that or the $100 that he telegrammed Adam.
Yeah.
Um, which, after how many times he brought up the knife, I'm surprised this didn't come up on like a daily basis that like I
Hmm.
telegrammed you $100 and you never repaid me.
$4,000 today.
Exactly, yeah. You gave us the exchange rate. Um, and so he says that, and Adam's like, I paid you, and they kind of have this back. He probably didn't pay him.
Hmm.
Um, and kind of one of those things where like you're mad at someone, but you're cool with them, and you kind of like
Hmm.
hold back what you're upset about, and then you finally get mad enough, and you're like, you owe me $4,000. So, like like you're like, oh, I don't want
Yeah.
to rub it in his face, and then they make you mad enough, and you're like, I don't care about this guy anymore.
Yeah. That was my exact note
Anyways,
too. I was like, yep, this dude just harbors things.
he harbors. I would harbor $4,000 though. Like if I
Even
Venmo
if
my
you were a
brother four
millionaire,
thousand dollars, you're right, but I forgot they were millionaires. 4,000's a lot. And Charles doesn't
it's
act
a
like a
thing of
millionaire.
principle. Yeah.
Charles probably hasn't spent any of the money, so like it's probably still, and that was his money. Like it wasn't He
Yeah.
probably views the inheritance money as whatever, but like
Good
his
point.
farm money, like that's mine.
When we split it
Um,
50-50, if that day comes, it's 50-50 minus $100 from your end.
yeah, yeah. And so anyway, um, they have this talk, and um, they keep fighting, and Adam's like, I'll build a new like they just have these brother fights. He's like, I'll build a new house, and Charles is like, I'll burn it down, and it's like.
Yeah.
wow. Like, but it kind of subsides when Adam finally they have another confrontation about the $100, and Adam's like, he's like, I needed it because I was in jail, and that's kind of how the chapter ends
Hmm.
with Adam kind of confessing that he was in jail, and that really seeming to calm Charles down. And I thought that was interesting because, like, I guess I didn't realize Adam wouldn't have hadn't said that yet. Like
Yeah.
in the book, in this chapter, a bunch of time does pass. I think it's a couple years since he comes back. Um, and so I would have assumed at some point, but I guess these guys just don't really talk about much. Um, and it kind of continues on in the next chapter, so I'll let you get to it. But I thought that was interesting that like that's
Hmm.
like a pacifier for Charles. He's like, "Oh, you were in jail? Like,
Oh,
I
you're
guess I'm not
cool.
mad anymore." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, you can do chapter 11.
Hey, he's like, I didn't know you had that dog in you, man.
Yeah, unaware of the dog.
And one thing too that I thought was funny, he goes to Boston, but then he also leaves again for like 9 months, and he goes to South America,
Oh, that was
Rio
in
and
that was in
Buenos
this chapter.
Aires. Yeah, that's in this chapter.
I forgot. I didn't know that. I did think that was funny. Like
Yeah,
so out of left field. Like this guy was like drifting around Arkansas, and then like now he's like in Rio. It's like,
yeah,
what a life he's living.
yeah, yeah. I like that part. And the one thing that was interesting to me too here in this chapter was Adam talks about this Indian woman, Native American woman that was with him in the army,
Oh, the
and
squaw. He was
the
squawing.
squaw. Yeah, and of course Charles sort of asked him, well, what were the benefits of being with this woman around camp?
Hmm.
And Adam can only say, "Oh, she was nice and sweet." And the only thing Charles can think of is, "I'm surprised she didn't pull a knife on you in the middle of the night." And knowing what we know in the next few chapters, I think it's kind of some clever foreshadowing of Charles is really wary of women, like he ends up being with Kathy. Adam
Yeah,
very trusting of the women.
true. I think it also foreshadows that people from the Northeast are racist.
Yeah,
So you got to watch for that.
you got to watch out for that.
You got to watch out for that.
Okay, guess chapter 11.
That's right. Rock on.
Okay, chapter 11. Charles doesn't hate Adam anymore. He thinks he's cool for going to the road gang twice, and maybe starts to see sort of his imperfections. My brother's not all that perfect. He went to the road gang, escaped. And there's this quote right in the start of chapter 11 that I want to read, where he says, Charles had more respect for Adam after he knew about the prison. He felt the warmth for his brother you can only feel for one who is not perfect and therefore no target for your hatred. So, kind of an interesting musing by the narrator here again of the people you target with your hatred are ones that you perceive as being perfect, which I can kind of relate
I
to.
did think that was interesting that like I just think it's very human, very normal that like knowing that someone had something horrible happen to them like
Hmm.
makes you like them more. I don't know, like, not even that you like you're just so much nicer or you reserve your judgment so much better when you know that something horrible happened to someone.
Yeah.
And and it kind of makes sense, but at the same time like why did it take your brother telling you that he'd been in jail and he was deeply ashamed of it for
Hmm.
you to respect him? And this isn't just a Charles thing. I think this applies to almost everyone today. We're in like the social media era where like
You
I
like start your
think
perfect life. Yeah,
yeah, and I think I think like jealousy leading to anger is very normal for people.
for sure.
And then like I don't know, it's like it's a very human imperfection to to like a person more because something bad happened. Like why does something bad need to happen for you to
Hmm.
be nice and like
Yeah.
not so harsh? But anyway, that
It's
I just
it's
think
more
that
it's more fun to pity somebody almost,
yeah,
and it makes you feel more powerful in a way. Maybe like at least that didn't happen to me.
yeah.
A lot of weird stuff with humans. But yeah, part of that universal truth that Steinbeck just keeps peppering every few pages or so. So Kathy shows up on their steps. We finally get Kathy's story. intertwining with Charles and Adam. And immediately Charles wants to take her into town, and Adam does not. And Charles has a pretty damning argument, which is this woman's badly beaten, and we just keep her in our house, two men. What they're going to think that we did this to her, we've done the worst to her. And I really think that Adam's change from our last section of reading here is starting to become more pronounced. Like when he chooses to see Cyrus for only the good person that he is. And I think that
Hmm.
kind of bleeds into here with Kathy. He can only see, um, I wouldn't even say it's like the good in Kathy at this point, but he refuses to believe that others might see that him and Charles had abused this woman.
Hmm.
He just can't even picture that. So he says he convinces Charles that if that we'll keep Kathy here, and Charles says something like, "Well, we'll suffer for keeping her here." And I really like Adam's response is, "I'll do the suffering."
Yeah.
Feels like some heavy foreshadowing there of what's going to happen to Adam. I'll do the suffering. So Kathy gets examined by the doctor, and Steinbeck. I love this again with the narrator saying, "Well, if X-rays had been around in their day, they would have been able to figure this and that out." And I think it's just a fun way that Steinbeck kind of reminds us that he's telling the story in the past. It's not a story in the present. So I think it's a fun narrative technique. And the doctor immediately picks up on that somebody was trying to kill Kathy. And the verb that they use is he starts mousing at the idea that it could have been Charles and Adam. He's kind of squeaking around, thinking, "Well, what were you guys up to? What could have happened that she's here in your house, this
Was
badly
it
beaten?"
was it mousing? Let me find that word. I did not hone in on mousing.
Is it mousing? Yeah, yeah. Page 111. Say, what are you mousing at? Is what Charles says. Because the
Mm,
doctor is like, "You ever seen her before? You go upstairs to the inn. Is she anybody from there? Like, did you bring
yeah, what are you mousing
one
at?
of the hookers home?"
Like squeaking? Like what are you
Yeah, it's kind of like say with your chest is almost what Charles is saying. So Adam starts to sort of Adam is really adamant about again believing that the not the worst happened, and between Charles and the doctor, they're like, "Who's going to take care of her?" Adam's saying, "I will," and the doctor says, "Why are you so interested in taking care of her?" Um, and the doctor finally calls Adam out, I think, in a way that Charles didn't. He says, "Adam, your father was one of my oldest friends. I know you and your family. You aren't stupid. I don't know why you don't recognize ordinary facts, but you don't seem to. I have to talk to you like a baby." And I don't think Adam in the first 100 pages needed to be talked to like a baby like he does now. Like something has definitely happened to him since the Road Gang and this interaction with Cyrus and maybe his time in Buenos Aires and Boston, but he just almost has the thinking patterns of a child when it comes to how the world actually is. So Adam's super adamant about taking care of Kathy. And I think that it might be because he sees her as the catalyst for getting out of town. And also, it's just he's in his late 30s. Maybe if he takes care of her, she'll fall in love with him. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. Why do you think Adam is so prone to want to take care of her right off the bat?
um that's an interesting question. I think I don't know if he starts off with like when he sees this beaten woman and he's like, this could be my wife.
Yeah.
Um but I think over the years he's developed this very tender sense of self, and it's led to him kind of traveling around and seeing the world, and um like his mind has like rebelled so much against his time in the army where like he just wants to kind of drift around and take care of things and have things be okay.
Mm.
Like he rejects real like he rejects that his father was a liar. He he kind of rejects anything bad about this Kathy person. He's just like, I want this to be a beautiful thing, and my mind is gonna make it a beautiful thing, whether or not it is.
Hmm.
So
Good read. Yeah, one thing I noted here too is I think it's interesting that Kathy shows up in Charles and Adam's lives physically bruised and beaten, and we kind of know that she's mentally messed up, maybe bruised and beaten in a way. And so, kind of just that outward expression of maybe who she is internally that these characters, maybe Charles is picking up on it, but Adam certainly isn't. He's taking it away of, I need to take care of this person.
Hmm.
The doctor agrees to let Kathy stay the night. He says, I'll still inform the sheriff about this. Charles and Adam bicker for a bit about what to do with Kathy, and then Charles finally just retires for the evening, and Adam stays with Kathy. And I really like this description of how Kathy is in the first few days. For several days, Kathy lay in a cave of shock and opium. Feels like a wild ride. It almost feels like that scene in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory where they take him through the tunnel and it's super trippy. Uh, like she's high on something, but still kind of loopy and out of it. But we eventually get to where the sheriff comes in. He starts questioning Kathy. But first, Adam doesn't allow it. He doesn't want Kathy to be questioned by the sheriff. He almost starts answering for her. And I just can't understand why Adam is making himself look so guilty. Like, if I was the sheriff and the doctor, I would have said, this guy totally beat up this woman, and he's covering
Hmm.
it. But Charles finally convinces him that he's looking guiltier than he actually is. They go in to ask Kathy some questions, and she doesn't remember her name when they ask her about it, but she doesn't write it down. And so we know that she'd been reconstructing some of the events that happened with her and Mr. Edwards, so she knows enough, but she pretends that she doesn't know her name. So I think she is being really coy about what she's scheming here with this first question interaction with the sheriff.
Yeah, I think, she's obviously very badly beaten, and it mentions that like to her like Adam and Charles and the sheriff are more like shapes.
Yeah,
And so I do think it's interesting that she very instinctively lies. Like,
start scheming
your
immediately.
your head's been beaten in, um, and like just like her default setting is like I need to lie to these people, like because
Hmm.
she probably could. I don't know. Maybe she's worried that Mr. Edwards is too powerful, but like
Yeah,
she could just say like I was beaten by Mr. Edwards,
yeah,
or she could just make up a name or a backstory. She could say that she was kidnapped from and like use her actual story. Like there's a lot she
yeah.
could do, but she just decides to go with I have amnesia and I don't want to
Hmm.
commit to a lie. I want to kind of have a blank I want to have kind
Hmm.
of a blank slate for the lies I'm going to tell going forward. So,
Yeah.
um,
Let's see.
yeah,
Let's learn a little bit about Adam and Charles, and then I can manipulate them.
yeah,
But it even says right away that after playing the damsel in distress stereotype, that she'd won the sheriff. So she knows exactly what she's doing. Wins the sheriff.
yeah. I
Um,
also think it's interesting. And maybe you're about to get to this, so you can
yeah.
tell me if you are. But um, that like her and Charles immediately don't trust each other.
Hmm.
Like Charles, before she's even up and lying a lot, like he's like looking at her and he like senses this darkness. And
Yep.
before she even really interacts with Charles, she doesn't know anything about his backstory, any of the stuff he's done, but like she just like sees him walking around and she senses this darkness in him. Like
Yeah.
they're two kind of not that they're similar because Charles isn't like cunning or manipulative. He's more like brute force kind of bad. Um
Paranoid too. I think Charles is really paranoid. I think
yeah,
he
but
just
I think I
assumes the
think
worst. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that they're like kind of kindred spirits as far as like um the darkness that's in them.
Yeah. Yeah. Charles, he has really bad bedside manner, and in addition to calling her flat out the devil and saying, I don't trust you, I like that he points at her scar and he says, uh, oh no, she's like itching at like her wound and he knows it's going to scar over. And he's like, oh yeah, you'll have a scar, maybe even better than the one I have.
Yeah,
Like,
in that same vein that they kind of recognize each other, they're
yep,
both marked. They're
yep,
they both have these big scars that are gonna kind of mark them. So a
yeah.
lot of those two. Interesting.
So yeah, calls her out, sort of like a takes one to know one. I think you're the devil. She says, that makes two of us. So they recognize it. Game recognizes game when it comes to these two.
Yeah. I think, not to skip ahead to movie tropes, but like I always think that's funny. Not to skip ahead to adaptation notes, but I always think it's funny when like two people are like they know that they're
Yeah,
onto each other, and there's one person that's not onto either of them, and
yeah.
like the straight person leaves, and then those two are like, I know what you're doing, like, but then
Hmm.
neither of them tell the other person. Like Charles doesn't go to Adam and he's like, she's evil, and
Yep.
she doesn't go to Adam and she's like, Charles is trying to kick me out. Like they
Hmm.
both like are just like they pretend like they're nice, and then as soon as Adam leaves, they're like, I hate you.
They're at each other's throats. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
yeah.
fun
Also noteworthy
dynamic.
here too is that Kathy, when she left her parents' house after burning it down, she becomes Catherine, and now she's
Hmm.
back to Kathy once Adam finally gets the name out of her.
No, I didn't think
So,
about that. That is interesting.
so she's reverting back a little bit, but Adam is like the happiest he's ever been now that Kathy's kind of coming to. He takes care of her. She starts
Hmm.
to recover really, really quickly. And let's see here. One thing that I
Hmm.
thought was funny too is that Charles lies to Kathy saying, "I heard you talking in your sleep," and she believes it. And Charles leaves thinking like, "Oh, I thought she was actually smarter than that." So Charles is like the only one to get a game up on Kathy so far in the story.
That was a good part. I that had slipped my mind. Um, yeah, I forgot that he has that little like, thought she was smarter than that.
Yeah,
That little moment where he kind of actually wins their
he
little
wins
one on
battle
one.
one. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that this is probably that moment because she's scared now, and I think that
yeah.
she's worried that she has divulged some of her secrets, and that Charles will tell Adam. And I think that's why what we see in the next couple pages, where she starts to maybe play Adam a little bit more heavy-handed, I think it's
Hmm.
probably because of this. So she starts working on Adam, and she starts to kind of play into the idea of, "Oh, Adam, you're just the sweetest boy. You're so good. You're so kind." And he's like, "Yeah, I want to be. I want to be good." And she must have overheard, I'm thinking, Charles and Adam talking about Cyrus because she starts to play the card of, "I was protecting my dad," when they know that she's like, I lied about losing my memory to protect my dad." And she knows that maybe Adam is kind of protecting Cyrus in a way that Charles wants to go tell about the money or something. So I think that she's trying to make them on level ground there. We're both kind of protecting our folks. And that's when Adam spills the beans that he has money. And after sort of this weird epiphany moment, he just comes back into Kathy's room and asks to marry her right away.
Like you
And
do.
it says that Kathy knew that he was going to ask her to marry him before he did this. This has been a game that she's been setting up, planting the seeds. She even says that Adam is basically the perfect refuge. He's got protection, money, and she can control him. So the perfect man, really.
Yep.
Um, Clearly, she's going to say yes, but she tells him that she needs to think on it, probably just some other manipulative technique,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
says, "Don't tell Charles about this." So he's able to bite his tongue when he goes and talks to Charles immediately after this, doesn't tell him about the proposal. It takes 5 days, and Charles is out and about in town. He thinks Adam is taking Kathy to the train station. Wrong. As you do sometimes, Nate, the big loud buzzer, right?
Loud, incorrect buzzer noise on that one.
Yeah, we got it way wrong. Adam and Kathy are down at the
Got
county
it
seat
way
getting
wrong.
married. He couldn't have got it more wrong.
It's
Um,
that's tough because, like, have you ever been like nervous about something the way I'm sure Charles was nervous about this woman, and you're just like, I need this to be over, whether it's a work thing or a family thing or whatever sort of drama. You're like, I just need this to be over, and like,
mhm.
and Charles is like out and about, and he's like, oh, she's on the train,
Yep, this
everything's
is
going back to
done.
normal, and he comes home, and they're like, we're married. He's like, this is the
Yeah.
worst thing that could have happened.
Ha
Like,
ha!
yeah,
Just flashing
yeah.
the ring, if there is one.
Just that feeling of like walking in the door and seeing her, and just like I'm sure his heart just dropped through his chest, and he's like, no, like,
Yeah.
oh man, he's like, he thought he won, he didn't win. Uh,
Yep.
Anyway, yeah.
Uh,
Keep
so,
going.
so naturally, Charles is pissed.
Yeah.
Um, and Adam's like, "We're going to California, adios muchacho." And
Hmm.
Charles finally comes clean about what he recognizes in Kathy and says, "She's going to destroy you. She'll tear you to absolute pieces." Adam's wearing his rose-colored glasses. He does not care. He thinks that Charles is probably jealous that he scored Kathy, and they just stay. Crazy enough, they stay one more night, and
Hmm.
Charles with Charles, and it's really really sly reading it, but Kathy has Adam bring in some tea and then says, "Oh, I want some sugar." And then presumably it's kind of off page as he goes to grab the sugar cubes is when she is heavy handed with her medicine in Adam's cup of tea, puts
Yeah.
the extra sleeping medicine. And so Adam gets super drugged up. She's like, "Oh, sorry, I must have given you my tea. Ha ha ha." Charles returns, and Kathy just shows up at his bed um, and convinces Charles to let her join him in bed. And I'm sure that they get down to adult things, and that's how part one ends.
Yeah. Yeah. Very devious. Very devious. And I, I mean, nasty woman.
For
Nasty
sure.
woman. Um,
And
yeah.
it's so funny to me because like Charles just cannot resist
He
women.
almost resists. He tells us like
He
he's
gets
like I already
close.
slept with a whore tonight, and then like she's
Yeah.
like let me in there, and he's like like like
Yeah.
oh wow.
He even says like, "Well, what about your broken arm? I'll take care of that."
Yeah, she's like don't worry about my arm, and he's like oh.
So is it
Not
a way to
Charles
get
is
back
great.
at
Not
Adam? I think it's probably a way to get back at Adam, right?
I don't really know what her. I mean maybe this is revealed, and as you know, as per the rules of the podcast, I have not read ahead of what we've read, what we'll cover on this pod. But like I don't really get what she gains
Hmm.
from doing this. Like it would be one thing if they were gonna like stick around and she needed to like have some leverage over Charles.
Yeah.
And she was gonna like hold it over his head, like, oh, like if you cross me, I'll tell your brother that we slept together, and then he'll be mad, and like Charles doesn't want like, but they just leave, like they leave immediately after this.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, spoilers for more episode for I might wait till I'll wait until that chapter to talk about
Okay.
um what happened. You already kind of mentioned it in your pre-chapter description, but I don't really understand what she has to gain except for that perhaps she was really like kind of drawn to him by his darkness, and
Yeah.
um maybe that's like this is like the first person she's met where she's like she she wasn't manipulating him the whole time.
So he's
um
hot.
yeah, like he kind of sees her for what she is, and she there's probably something comforting about that, like when she's with him that night, she doesn't have to pretend to be something she's not.
Hmm.
um she can just be fully evil.
Yeah.
um but yeah, but that's that chapter. Yeah, do you have anything
And,
else on that
and
one?
well, it's the end of part one. Also, I think it's a really satisfying end to part one. Like if this was a serial novel, and I read this as part one, and they're like part two comes out in 4 months, I'd be pretty happy with how part one set up everything.
I didn't even know there were parts until I got to this, and then I was like, oh, part one.
Yeah,
Apparently we're doing this in parts.
yeah,
So was or did I just miss that on like the first page? Does it say part one? Check.
yeah. It's there at
It does say
the
part
very
one.
beginning.
I just forgot. But yeah, but that's the end of part one.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right, so beginning of part two, chapter 12. Nice and short chapter for me, not hard to read. Um, this one we're getting Steinbeck, and he's in his narration bag. Um, he says at this point the book has reached the great boundary that was called 1900. And he starts talking basically over the next page and a half. He kind of recaps the 1800s,
Hmm.
talks about and it's things that are familiar. It's interesting to hear someone who's in 1950, he's probably born in the early 1900s, kind of talk about how like oh like people said things weren't the same. They said ladies weren't ladies anymore, and you couldn't trust a gentleman anymore. And it's like it's pretty similar to what people say now. Like, oh, like
Yeah.
the women aren't women like they used to be. Like, um, what men aren't men like they used to be. I guess people have just been saying that every 100 years or so.
Yeah.
Um, but then he talks about how it was a nasty little century. Like, he talks
Hmm.
about the War of 1812 and the burning of the White House, and the Mexican War. It's interesting how he describes all these wars. Um, and these are such interesting wars because they're wars that, if we both went to school in America, like that like barely get touched on. Like War of 1812, that's like
It's the joke
half.
war. It's like, when did this happen?
Yeah.
That's your give me
But it's
multiple
like
choice in a history test.
when you when the War of 1812 is taught, it's basically like it's half of one history class, and then they just move on. You're like, yeah, the War of 1812, Britain came back, they burned the White House,
Hmm.
and that's that. And that's AP US history, baby.
Whoop.
Um, and then but then he talks about the Mexican War again, not a war that we give a ton of press to. Like, he calls it a kind of a painful picnic. Um, he kind of describes the things America got from it. Doubled our size,
Yep.
training ground for generals for the Civil War. Um, and then he says, and then the arguments. I thought I circled this. So, can you keep a
Hmm.
slave? Well, if you bought him in good faith, why not? Next, they'll be saying a man can't have a horse. Who is it wants to take my property? And and so like obviously like that's kind of his fancy writer's way of being like, and then the Civil War. Like that's his
Hmm.
recap of the Civil War. Can you keep a slave? Like, um,
I,
and I
I
do think it's
wonder if
funny.
in oh sorry, I was just gonna say I wonder if when the coin Civil War was like given to it, because like World War I, it was initially like the Great
It was the
War,
Great War, yeah. I don't know when
and
they
so I wonder when they called it, and then maybe that's why he's not naming it
like.
here.
I mean, a civil war is just a term for when a country goes to war
That's
against
true.
itself,
Yeah.
and we call ours the Civil War.
Right.
Um, you know, where depending on where Steinbeck went to school, they might call it the War of Northern Aggression. Um, Now, if he was in California, they probably didn't call it that.
Yeah.
Uh, I went to high school in Virginia, so I might have heard that term. But I do think that this little like conversation that he lays out is kind of funny because it's like, can you keep a slave? Well, if you bought him in faith, why not? What's next? I can't have a horse.
Hmm.
And it's like I'm sure guy number two in that conversation that's like, what's next? I can't have a horse. Like he thought that was such a banger. Like
Yeah.
he was like, I owned you. Facts over feelings. Um, like, and it just kind of reminds me of like the kind of the political arguments you see today, where like people will like say things with such confidence, like it's just an incontrovertible fact. Like, well, if you bought him in good faith. And
Hmm.
then it's like, and they think like, I just nailed that. I won the argument.
Yep.
And it's like all it takes is like 100 years to pass, and it's like you are the worst person ever for saying that. You are so gross for being like, well, I bought him.
Yeah.
Like
In good faith.
and like so, and it just I don't know. It's like, oh, they'll say a man can't have a horse. Like that's so that's so MAGA coded. It's like, oh, what's next? Like it's something else ridiculous, and it's like
Yeah.
that's not what's next. We're asking for like, oh, basic human rights. What's next? I lose my horse, and it's like that's not related. What are you talking? Oh, everyone's a human being. Like, what are you gonna like? My goodness. Um, yeah. So anyway,
Humans
so
never
he's
change. Yeah.
yeah, we're still doing it. We're still cooking. Um, we're fighting the whole wars over who gets to be people. Um, anyway, that's kind of towards the end. End of Civil War, bankruptcy,
Hmm.
depression. And he says, "To hell with that rotten century." And now he's like, "Now we get a new century.
Hmm.
It's a new clean 100 years. What could go wrong? It's the 1900s."
Yep.
Um, and and
Pretty
then bang,
tongue in cheek
next.
from the guy that wrote the seminal novel on the Great Depression.
Yeah, yeah. He's like, new 100 years, baby. Like, and
Yeah.
nothing could go wrong.
Yep.
So
It's kind of like how when I remember when like 2020 first started, January and February, it was like it's the Roaring Twenties, baby. We're bringing it back. And then you
it
came
went,
into my apartment one day and said Kobe had died, and I knew that the decade was for naught.
the decade was cooked. Um, yeah, ugh. We're halfway done. We're gonna get through this.
Yep.
And then we'll get a nice clean decade in 2030, and nothing will go wrong then.
Yep.
All right. That's all I got for chapter 12. That's a short chapter.
Okay. Good stuff. Yeah. The bulk of chapter 12 is my East of Ethan take, so I'll
All
talk
right,
about it a little
East of
bit
Ethan.
more. Okay. Chapter 13. The first chunk of chapter 13 is almost like an epilogue to chapter 12. He still is kind of philosophizing a little bit here,
He is.
talking about man's glories. And the main bullet points, and I think it's best to just kind of read them because they're written so well. One of them kind of talks on mass production leads to mass thinking. He says a group can build automobiles quicker and better than one man, and bread from a huge factory is cheaper and more uniform. When our food and clothing and housing are all are born in the complication of mass production, mass method is bound to get into our thinking and eliminate all other thinking. Pretty good. And then the narrator also starts to talk about his personal beliefs, his personal motto. What do I believe in? What must I fight for? And what must I fight against? Those are the questions that the narrator asks himself. And he really believes that the free, exploring mind of the individual human is the most valuable thing in the world. He says, I can understand why a system built on a pattern must try to destroy the free mind, for that is the one thing which can, by inspection, destroy such a system. Surely I can understand this, and I hate it, and will fight against it. And so you kind of read this, and it's like the first thing I was thinking of is as I continue the chapter, why did he start the chapter with this?
hmm
It seems kind of out of left field. What is he doing? How will this lead back to the story of Adam and Kathy? So it jumps right into Adam, and he's kind of talking like we saw in chapter 13 about these great glories that man has, and Kathy is that glory for Adam.
hmm
Kathy, and I wouldn't even say Kathy is that glory. It's the version of Kathy that resides in Adam's mind is his glory, because they're
hmm
two different things: who Kathy is and who Adam sees that she is. But they kind of make their trek across to California. Adam actually wins the argument. She doesn't want to go to California, and he convinces her. He probably thinks in his mind, "I'm doing the best thing for her."
Yeah, very
And
kind of
then,
interesting that
yeah,
she doesn't manipulate her way out of that.
she's really picking her battles.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
picking her battles. That might be some of it. I also feel like maybe just like a victor, because she reads people really well, and I think she
Hmm.
could just tell like he's set on this. Like I'm not gonna
Yeah.
trick him into not going to California. So
And I can hold this against him in a few years. You made me go all the way to California. I want the new Model T when it comes out.
gotta watch out for
So,
these women. They want the Model T.
yeah,
Um, that's all they're gunning
zero
for.
to 15 miles an hour in 20 seconds. The Model T.
She's like she wants her husband back there cranking that thing so that it'll go forward. I think the point of the Model T was you didn't have to do that.
Yeah, no Fred
Um,
Flintstone sort of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Um, and then there's this probably be the last big quote I read from this chapter. It's very front heavy, but it's talking about how inside all of us there's a little bit of evil and ugly things.
Hmm.
And I'll just read this whole paragraph. Maybe we all have in us a secret pond where evil and ugly things germinate and grow strong. But this culture is fenced, and the swimming brood climbs up only to fall back. Might it not be that in the dark pools of some men the evil grows strong enough to wriggle over the fence and swim free? Would not such a man be our monster? And are we not related to him in our hidden water? It would be absurd if we did not understand both angels and devils, since we invented them. And I think that it's just kind of a way of reminding the reader who might be asking the question, why is Adam with Kathy? Is like we all have a little bit of bad. and maybe the little bit of bad inside of Adam is related to this bad that's creeped up over the fence inside Kathy. Maybe you try to, as the reader, relate to both of them a little bit more than judging them, among other things that this quote is clearly saying about the evil that resides in all of us.
Yeah, I circled that as well. It's a good one.
You know, do you have any additional thoughts? Is that a Nate's take later on?
Uh, no, I didn't have it as a Nate's take, but I did circle it. It's just kind of a similar thing to what you said, where um because he's writing this story, and as you mentioned, for him, this story is about good versus evil, and I think he just kind of wants to lay it down a little bit here and there that, like, like, being good isn't just like you only think good things, you only do good things. Like, he's recognizing that within anyone there's this, and and he says it in a very descriptive way. There's this secret pond of evil, and he describes, like, ugly things germinate and even grow strong. And so, like, people have bad things about them. Like, they have traits that are not enviable, and those
Yeah,
things can grow and get worse. And you can still be a good person and have a part of yourself that is not that great and getting worse. And but
maybe
these
just
things
don't let it
they can,
germinate. Yeah.
yeah, they can shrink back down, and it's within a fence, and just don't let it go over the fence. And
Hmm.
um, and you're not a monster for that. So
Yeah.
just a little context, because, like, in so much of this book, it is a little heavy-handed. Like, he calls Kathy a monster, and, like, he doesn't
Hmm.
really present a lot of redeeming traits for her.
Hmm.
Um, and other characters we're led to believe are very, um, have a lot of integrity, are personifications of
Sam,
good.
Sam
Yeah,
Hamilton.
and it's like,
Yeah.
here's good, here's evil, and it's like, he's like, just so you know, the good is, it's not just like you're a ray of sunshine. Like, you got your evil pond that I've
Hmm.
created.
Yeah.
So fun way of looking at it.
Yeah. So, uh, moving the actual plot along after
Hmm.
a few pages of part two, where he's just talking about his thoughts, Adam is really patient in picking his land out. He wants to settle and lay down a family and perhaps a dynasty, which I thought was a really interesting word to use because I almost associate dynasty with like evil royalty, or dynasty is the Patriots everybody hates, or the evil empire of the Spurs. It's kind of like, oh, is that a little bit of that secret black water pond in Adam? Of maybe he wants to establish something huge and foreboding and oppressive. I don't know.
Listen, Brazilo, is the Trask family a top five dynasty in East of Eden? Is this a dynasty moment? Sorry.
So let's see here. Let's see here. Kathy's not doing great during this journey out west. And Adam was out visiting some land, comes back into the hotel room where Kathy is, and sees that she's nearly dead from blood loss. Immediately calls the
Mm.
doctor in town. Doctor inspects her and asks Adam out of the room. Says, "I got to speak with Kathy alone." First thing he realizes is, "You're pregnant. Does your husband know you're pregnant?" I think you can probably sense between Kathy and Adam that there's not much trust there. Does he know you're
Hmm.
pregnant? And then lets us know that Kathy tried to use a knitting needle to unsuccessfully kill the baby, and that she perhaps even tried doing other things to poison herself, like inserting kerosene or red pepper up her vagina. So she was doing the most that day
As,
to not
as
have this
is
child.
as is wont to happen.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, cool among
So
us.
so the first
What
thought though, when you read, "Does your husband know you're pregnant?" is kind of, was it Adam or was it Charles?
Well, it feels like it has to be Charles. It's like,
You think?
well, what would this book even be about if that's not Charles's
Yeah.
little sin baby? Um, but yeah, I was very intrigued by this Dr. Tilson
Yeah.
um character.
What
I don't know
intrigued
if
you the
he's gonna come
most?
back ever. Um, but it's just so interesting because, like, you think of old-timey medicine, like turn of the century, 1900s medicine. I don't think, and maybe this is just unfair of us kind of looking back in time, but, like, I don't think you necessarily think of doctors that respect women a lot
Oh,
and
good
and
point.
like care about making sure that they know what's going on and like trying to take care of them. And like it's very clear, he's cross with her. He's stern. He's upset that
Hmm.
she tried to abort this baby. But he does come at it from like a let me help you, talk to me, let me help you. And she's not wanting to talk to him. She's obviously she's holding her tongue, kind of trying to think of what lie to tell that's going to help this dog. She kind of lets him talk until she figures out what
She's
to
good at
say to
that.
him that's going to work. Yeah. The more he talked, I was like, oh, he's going to say something that's going to let her manipulate him, and he did. Um, but he wants what's best for her. Like,
Yeah.
like it's all everything he's saying is about like you have to take care of this baby. Like, you have to take care of yourself. Let me help you. Um, and it's like, and then like he doesn't want to tell Adam. Like he's like, I won't tell your husband. And I feel like, it's olden times a little bit. Like maybe you stereotypically feel like, oh, a doctor would just tell the man and the man would get to be mad.
Yep.
But this doctor's like, doctor patient confidentiality. Um, and also like pretty accepting of the abortion. Like abortion's like a tough topic for people now. And
Yeah.
so, it's for it to be like 1900 and this doctor be like, like, oh, we're cool. Like, I'll help you keep this secret. I mean,
Eh,
he's not volunteering to
This must
help
have
her.
been Colorado, right?
This is Lib City, California. This is where it started.
Yeah.
The woke mind virus originated with Dr. Tilson. No, but he's very
Yeah.
accepting and like he's not going to help her abort this baby, but like he wants to help her as much as he can. And so it's just an interesting
Mhm.
character.
Yeah. He's irate. He
He's
he even
upset, yeah.
recognizes that there's something inhuman about this woman. Everybody can see this except Adam, that there's something wrong
hmm
with her.
He's
But
like
yeah, you're
he's
right.
like you're a
He still
nasty
wants to
woman.
help her. Still wants to help
Yeah.
her. The lie that Kathy eventually uses is, I wanted to get rid of this baby because I have epilepsy. And then the doctor's like, no, not you. And she's like, oh, maybe I crossed. He can tell I don't have epilepsy, but it was my father and grandfather who had it. I didn't want to
hmm
pass that down onto my kid. So she maybe overstepped her lie a little bit. Um, but yeah, it's just the Kathy, just another thing about her and her inhumanity. But we finally get into the Salinas Valley. Um, and there's this big paragraph about the Bordonis and this ranch that they have, and it's super great. And Adam is able to be read by anybody like a book. Like
hmm
Kathy, in a few chapters before, knew that he was going to propose. Bordoni knows that he'll buy the ranch before he even buys it. It's a pretty good sized farm, and Adam has the money for it. And it turns out that Adam is most interested in water and wells. So who are we going to finally come? Who's finally going to come into the story? Mr. Sam Hamilton.
My dog.
Yep. And there's just a few points I want to hit about this interaction when Bordoni brings Adam to meet Sam Hamilton.
Oh, it's
Is
Lewis. It's not
oh
Bordoni,
yes,
right?
yes, you're right,
It's
Lewis.
another
Sorry.
guy they run into.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
keep
So
going real quick. I'm gonna get some water, but
okay, yeah.
I'll
So
be
Lewis
listening.
gives Adam the backstory on Sam and his family that we already got in like chapter 2 or 3. And then Lewis slightly threatens Adam to make sure he doesn't take advantage of Sam. Everybody loves the Hamiltons, you rich folk from the Northeast. Just because this guy's maybe not as smart as you, don't take advantage of him. So I like that these people in the town have the Hamiltons back. Um, and of course, they bring a bottle of liquor. And Liza, as we know, at this point in her life, is very anti-liquor. It takes until she's much older to have her cup of wine every night and is constantly buzzed. But they bring the liquor as sort of a gift for Mr. Sam Hamilton. And once he finds out, Adam does, that they can't drink in front of Liza, I think it's funny that he remarks that Liza must be a holy terror because she won't let him drink. And yet he's living with the terror of all terrors in Kathy. So he's kind of got some warped perceptions of what a true terror of a person is. And then after all these pages of hearing that Sam Hamilton is very eloquent and the greatest storyteller ever. We finally get a story from his own mouth. And it's a really fun story about his son Tom, who was born with fire and lightning in his veins, who asked two girls to a dance. And the way he brings both of them at once is he ties a sofa up to the horses to take them down to the dance, which is a fun story. And certainly, there's no way that anybody could replicate the emotion and comedy that I'm sure Sam is infusing into the story.
Yeah, it's a really interesting interaction. And I think it's interesting that Steinbeck decides to kind of introduce the Hamiltons again, because we
Mm-hmm.
already had a chapter where he described them and how they came to live where they are and what their house is like and even what they all grew up to be. Um, and so it's interesting that he like decides to kind of reiterate a lot of those same things. Like if you ripped out that chapter from earlier in the book and then just had this introduction, you'd get a lot of the same
I
ideas. Like
think you'd get it.
yeah, you would understand like they were poor, they came here, they got bad land. Mr. Hamilton, is like a
They won the town
inventor, a
over.
hard worker, raised really good kids. It mentions the kids like in passing, and like you get the sense that Will's a little bit judgmental of him. Tom is just like him. Joe's a
Yep.
nincompoop, and and the wife is strict. You learn all that stuff again. So it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting. And then yeah, just the story he tells like kind of reinforces like yeah, like his son Tom is just like him. Like
Yep.
um and so I don't know, it's just an interesting choice to
Yeah.
redo it. It's almost like he wrote it at two separate times. Like he was like, all right. He sat down, he wrote that first chapter, and then he was like, well, I want to smoothly bring him into the story in case you forgot.
Mm-hmm.
And so you do get, I don't know, but it does, maybe repetition is usually key with these things. And
Yeah.
so now it feels like you're definitely gonna remember, you know, their story. So
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so then Sam kind of does like a weird Professor Trelawney sort of prediction here. He says the valley will be a valley of great richness one day, but there's a blackness on it. And Samuel's talk of this blackness over the valley kind of reminds me of that really weird letter in half in pen and half in pencil that Charles wrote Adam about feeling like the house was alive and kind of haunting him. And so maybe just a little bit of a parallel between this valley and the place where they grew up, or again, maybe we had learned in the beginning of this chapter that everybody has a little bit of bad in them. So maybe this valley, this is their little bit of bad in them. I think that he's just kind of alluding to all these different things he's already touched on in these last 15 pages or so. And so it makes me initially think that the farm has potential for success, this valley has potential for success, but the first thing I think of is Kathy could be this blackness. And despite being spooked, Adam just goes out and buys the place. And I think it's, again, he's able to just convince himself of only the good things. He can compartmentalize the bad and just flat out reject it and deny anything that he doesn't want to believe. He doesn't want to believe there's a potential blackness over this valley. This ranch is great enough, and I'll just buy it.
he is genuinely pretty spooked here in this last couple paragraphs. Like
Mm-hmm.
he goes from kind of pleasantly conversing with Sam Hamilton, who really comes to life in these pages.
Surely.
Like before this, he's just kind of like, oh, Sam, and like hearing him speak, like the dialogue that Steinbeck threw down for him. I'm like, this is a real guy. You feel like you've met this guy too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so fun character. Hopefully nothing bad happens to him ever. Um, but like when he says there's a darkness in the valley, like Adam makes a bunch of kind of weak excuses to get away as soon as possible.
Yeah.
He invokes his pregnant wife. My wife was pregnant early this year. You can use it to get out of anything.
Yeah.
Anywhere you don't want to be. You're like, my wife's pregnant. I gotta go. I have to leave work early. I didn't do that. Work. I did not do that. I work from home. Um, you can use it. You can use it to not have to do anything you don't want to do. So Adam, he's already learned this. He's like, I need to get back to my wife. She's pregnant.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, so then he leaves Sam Hamilton. You do also see interesting. you see Samuel Hamilton not charge for work that he's doing.
Yep.
He does a
Good
big
point.
job for this Lewis guy, and then Lewis is like, "How much?" And he's like, "The pleasure of your company." And I was like, what a chack! But you should
Hmm.
charge money for that. Like,
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about? The pleasure of your company? Like, you have 9 kids. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
But good chapter. There's a.
it is a good chapter. It's a banger. Um, I underlined so much in that first section about.
Mhm. Yeah, you texted me too. Chapter 13
I
is a
was. That's
banger.
right where I was when I texted you about it. We might hear about that a little more in Nate's takes. So,
Dun 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 dun
um,
dun dun
yeah.
dun
Anyway,
dun.
chapter 14, kind of a
Yeah,
change up, different pace
definitely.
here. I think we do see this from Steinbeck every couple chapters or so, where he's just like, "Now I want to talk about something else," and he's talking about his mom. Um, and so he kind of talks about the schoolhouses and how they were centers for culture, and the teachers were, he uses the phrase, intellectual paragons and social leaders and a matrimonial catch. And obviously, so Olive Hamilton, uh, the the mother of our protagonist, of our unnamed narrator,
Mhm.
um, is a school teacher, and it mentions that she was very popular, that she worked very hard, that she was proposed to many times. And this is an interesting thing that he'll do throughout the book too, is like he does kind of just like narrate all of Hamilton's life until up into her old age. Like it starts with her as a school teacher, as a young woman. The end of this chapter, she's an old lady. And so it's like gotta be like 40, 20, 30 years past in this chapter. And then
Mhm.
I'm assuming at the start of the next chapter, we're gonna go back to when she's a young woman again.
Okay.
Um, just kind of a fun thing that he does. Um, but you just kind of get another feel for what it was like to have been raised by this Olive Hamilton woman. It talks about um how she yearned for the metropolitan life, how she intentionally married someone that could take her to live in a city.
Mhm.
It talked about how in her old age, how she had these quirks and these dreams that she would have. When it talked about how when her children would get sick, she would call every kind of religious leader into the house and just like kind of like, oh
Yeah.
well, one of these will work, and call in priests and Eastern medicine, Irish fairies, like, try all these
Mhm.
different things. But she hated debt. Um,
Yep.
yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. And then it kind of tells this story. This is all just like character work, basically, on this Olive Hamilton character. It's probably just kind of a crazy. I can't even imagine how fast the world's changing at this point, where you go from living in the Salinas Valley to like, oh, our neighbor died in France.
Mhm.
And it talks about how she sold so many bonds. She got all these prizes from the U.S. government. Like they couldn't believe how many bonds she was selling. And then one of the prizes was she gets to fly in a plane. And this was kind of a funny story by the end of it.
It's
Like
so funny. I love the story.
she goes up in the plane and she's terrified to go in the plane. Like she
Well,
is
well,
just
before
she
going up,
like
she writes a will.
She writes her will. She burns all of her husband's letters that he wrote her so no one can find them when she dies. She buys
Yep.
new underwear so that when they clean out her stuff, they won't find her old underwear. Like she does all these things. And then she gets in the plane and like she asks them not to fly too close to her husband's work so her husband won't see her die. Which is just so like just don't get in the plane. Like
Yeah.
you can probably say no, but she does it. She gets in there.
She doesn't want to let
Um,
her kids down in
And
the
yeah, and her
community.
kid, her kids are so proud of her. They're just like, our mom gets to fly in a plane. Um,
Hmm.
and and she gets up there, and like they're watching her from far away. It's just this normal plane ride, and all of a sudden, like the plane starts doing like does like a loop de loop, and then a barrel roll, and like starts doing all these tricks. And this is like a
Yeah.
World War I plane. It's not one of the
Was
Blue
it the
Angels. Like
Blue Angels? Yeah.
yeah, it's not one of those. It's like it's not far from what Orville and Wilbur Wright. Those guys are still alive. And they're doing barrel and like and then it gives us the perspective of the children watching and like the
Yeah.
the pilot lands and he goes, "What a lady!" and like
Yep.
and then like she's like scared stiff in the back of the plane. And then in reality, what had happened is they go up there and he turns like as they're flying towards where her husband works, he turns around and says, "Stunt?" And she can't hear him really, and she thinks he's telling her the plane's gonna crash. And obviously this is her worst fear, and she knew this would happen. And so she just, and it's kind of a testament to her. It's a funny story, but it is also a testament to her character that like she thinks she's about to die. And so what she
Yep.
decides to do is comfort the poor pilot who's obviously also going to die. And she just smiles and nods and she's like, "Yeah, yeah." And
You're
she's like, "It's
doing
okay."
great.
Yeah. And he's
My
like,
worst fear
"Okay,
is
she
coming
wants
true. Yeah.
and so he does a big flip and then like he's like, "More?" And she still thinks they're crashing and she's like, "Yeah,
Well,
yeah." And he's
I'm
like,
sure. I'm sure all the ups and downs. She actually is thinking they're crashing. Like
yeah, she's
he
like,
doesn't
as they're
have
doing
control
like
of
the
this
loop the
plane.
loop, she's like, "This is what I thought it would be like." Like, here we go. And then like, and she just kept saying yes to stunt after stunt, and he's just like, this
Yep.
pilot's just like, "This lady's awesome,"
Yeah. This
and
lady's
that's
hardcore.
like what a pilot she would have been.
Yeah.
And that's how
It's
the
such a
chapter
great
ends. Like,
story.
yeah, it's a good one. So
It might be my favorite chapter in the whole book. Like this is a chapter I was really looking forward to reading again because when I've read it in the past, for some reason this chapter is like 25 pages because I just soaked these pages up, and it's so out of left field. It's such a change in pace from the chapter before. It's so good. And as I was reading it, because what I've been trying to do more on this reread is like, why did Steinbeck put this story here in
yeah,
chapter 14? And what I could come up with was it's a story that shows how some people will do anything for the people they love. Like Olive is doing anything for her family, for her community, for the pilot that she thinks is losing control of the plane. And it just kind of reminded us that Adam loves Kathy. He'll do anything for her. It's kind of what I was picking up. But so good.
that's
I
an
just, this,
interesting
yeah.
takeaway. On the first read, I'm just thinking like, how is she gonna fly a plane later? Like,
Mm,
no, she's
yeah.
obviously not. But I did not have those thoughts about why it was in there quite as much. It is kind of funny, like reading and stopping and then talking about it, because like when we started on chapter 10 for today's pod, and like a lot of my questions about chapter 10 are answered by chapter 14, and
Mhm.
so. But when I'm reading chapter 14, I'm like, what's going to happen after this? And I just don't know. And now I'm going to have a discussion about it, and I don't
Yeah.
know what's going to happen. So, um, but yeah, but that's our chapter recaps. There we go. We did it.
Yep.
And we were pretty quick
Do-do-do-do.
this time. It did not take 2 hours.
Yeah.
You'll have much less editing to do. Um, sorry.
This, Nate's Takes, my
Yes,
favorite
yes.
segment. Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, so on the past two pods, the first pod I was just a total blabbermouth. Didn't save a single take for Nate's takes, just said them as
Hmm.
fast as I could. Second pod I tried to hold some in, failed again. Still didn't hold.
Yeah.
This time I made a special note. Do not say anything about this take until it's time for Nate's takes.
Okay.
So this is the first time I think this segment is going to be good. I say as I prepare to say something that makes no sense.
Let us
Um,
know in the comments below if you thought this was Nate's best take yet.
yeah, yeah. Do not say anything.
If comments are disabled, you'll know that the comments were not great.
I will be disabling those comments. All right, yeah. So my big take,
Okay.
I really have two, but the first one is when Kathy is in the Trask's home and she identifies Adam as the person that she's gonna like that he's gonna be her meal ticket. That she's gonna that you know that he's the one that can provide protection and money. And she immediately sets about on like, how can I manipulate him? How can I take advantage of him? Like it doesn't even occur to her. Like, and it's not like it's not like they meet and it's a blank slate and she's just like, I'm gonna manipulate this man. Like the
Hmm.
context of them meeting is he like saves her life and nurses her back to health and stands up for her and protects her. And the first coherent thought she has about him is, how can I take advantage of this man?
Yeah.
Um, and I just think it's interesting And she's obviously written this way on purpose, but I think there are kind of a class of people that view the kind of empathy that Adam was showing Kathy as like the ultimate weakness. Like I think, from Adam's perspective, he's this strong person. He's taking care of her, and she views him as this weak being, like that she's like, oh, he's nice, like he's empathetic, like I can take advantage of that. I can destroy him if I need to. And
Mm,
so like and I think we see that in today's world as well. Like there are people out there that view having empathy and caring about people as a weakness. And when they see other people displaying this kind of empathy, they really only view it as something they can take advantage of and trick people. And to these people, the only thing that they respect is cruelty. And I think you see that in Kathy when she gravitates towards Charles, even as they're fighting the whole time, and then she eventually kind of sleeps with him because
mm,
she is drawn to the fact that he is a cruel man. Like he's cruel, he's nasty, and even though they're fighting because she's fighting for her life and he wants to kick her out, like she is into the idea that there's this other cruel person out there, um, and she kind of views him as an equal while viewing Adam as um
less than.
almost like a horse that she's riding, like
Hmm.
um and so I think that's one of the great evils that exists in the world, because in modern times we have, like, at least in this country and in most developed countries, we have the resources to take care of other people and other countries and oppressed groups. And there are large swaths of people that are in leadership positions and voting for people in leadership positions that view the desire to take care of people, whether it's through any sort of welfare or universal health care, as like this big weakness, and that it must be crushed. And like we have to get rid of anyone relying on this sort of empathy, and we have to get rid of these people that have these empathetic feelings. Like almost like these people are thieves and a drain.
Hmm.
Um, and so I just think it's interesting that that's Kathy Ames, the personification of evil in this book, very clearly has that trait that I see so much in the world, um, of just having like thinking that empathy is a bad thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's been maybe more of a push recently culturally to respect empathy, but I mean that could just be um, the big box anti-empathy corporations pushing that on us so they can control us more. But I think it's definitely more of a man's trait to respect cruelty and hot-headedness. So it's really interesting that it's used with Kathy here to embody that.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other one, my other take is in chapter 13, and you touched on it a little bit. Um, but it was in talking about that sort of mass production. And he's
Mm,
talking about these advances in production, and he says, um, you know, let's see, he says, some of these forces seem evil to us, perhaps not in themselves, but in their tendency to, but because their tendency is to eliminate other things we hold good. And he talks about how in this mass production, like it makes total sense. He uses these examples like two men can lift a bigger stone than one. A group can build a car faster than one person. But when and then his overarching point is like when our food, our clothes, our houses all come from mass production, we're so far removed from them that like he talks about like collective production kind of being people's identity and their religion. But like I think what we see more today is that like today, everything that you could ever need, at least in America and again in most developed countries, is so readily available to you, and we're all so far removed from how all the clothes we wear are created, who's making them, who's growing the cotton that turns into your shirt, who's weaving your shirt. Like it doesn't even exist to us. Like you're just hitting order. You're just in the store with, hundreds and thousands of shirts, picking the one you like. The same thing with your food. We have no connection to how our food is grown. We're just so far removed. Everything's so convenient. down to like the smallest little gadget you could ever want, you know, a bookmark, um, you know, a mouse pad, anything like that. You can just go online and find on Amazon like hundreds of variants and pick the one you like. Um, and this mass production that Steinbeck's talking about has made all of our lives so easy. It's so easy to get food. It's so easy to get clothes. It's so affordable. There's so many choices. Like it's good. Like and he
Yeah.
talks about this. He says like these forces are not evil. Like it's not bad. It's not a bad thing to have access to so much food. It's not a bad thing to have access to so many clothes. But we are so disconnected from how these things work, how we come to have these things. Um, and and you know, and it eliminates like the community and the collectiveness, like, you know, back in this time that Steinbeck's talking about, like if you wanted a shirt, you go to the people in your town that made shirts and you knew them and you bought
Hmm.
clothes from them. And the same with the clothes. Everyone had the food. Everyone has a farm. When you need food, you go to the people that have a farm. You buy food from them. And like that, in that way, a community kind of takes care of each other, and that does make things more expensive and less convenient. And so mass production makes sense. You know, let's go with the mass produced things. We get more options. We get things for cheaper. But it kind of destroys things that are good, like that community.
Yeah.
Um, and sorry, I'm going on and on, but like he talks about how people like believe in this mass production, like it's their religion. And I think for today, like a lot of people like their overarching belief is just what's most convenient. Like they don't like the idea of having to do something is is like is like heresy to them. Like the idea like I have to go somewhere and talk to someone. Like I have
Hmm.
to like and like, you know, with like with like a religion asks you to do certain things, to go to a church, to live by certain standards, and it's like, you know, it's so unpopular now. People are like, this this church is going to ask me to do something like that I don't want to do. Like I get to do whatever I want to do. I'm always doing what I want to do.
Hmm.
And whether that's a religion, whether that's a community, like whether that's a family, like I think it's becoming less and less common, the idea of like inconveniencing yourself for the greater good of either a community of any kind. You know, so
Yeah.
that's my rambling take.
No, I totally agree with that. I earlier this year I read this book called The Comfort Crisis, and it was probably like one of the better works of nonfiction I've read recently. And the whole theme of this book is exactly what you're saying here, and what Steinbeck's saying is because our lives are getting so comfortable that it's weakening our sense of self and it's making us less resilient to the harder things of life because our life is so cushy that we start complaining about anything and everything because now
Hmm.
even something that's really easy seems like a burden, like with AI coming out and it can draft an email. If you just tell it write an email based on this, it almost feels like writing a response to something is a burden, and you complain about, oh, I have to write an email to this person, when 2 years ago I probably wouldn't have complained about that as much. So yeah, it definitely, it warps your sense of self. Maybe thinking you're on one end the best, better than everyone, you don't have to do this, or totally decreases your self esteem and you complain about everything. I think the world's out to get you.
Yeah, no, I think I should probably just read that book. It sounds like exactly kind of what I'm thinking. Like things have become so easy and convenient that like no, we don't know how to like make a sacrifice for something.
Hmm.
The way that like even when you read this book, it's not even this book isn't even really about that. Like you just read about the things people did to like get their family ahead, to create a better life for their community or their family. Like they did hard things, and it's just like I feel like people don't do hard things anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe some people out there doing hard things, but like you know, like people went way outside their comfort zone to do things, and they explored, and they took risks, and it just feels like what Steinbeck's talking about with the mass production. Like, you know, now you just care about having the easiest thing. Um
Hmm.
so That's
Yeah.
interesting that's in there. You know, again, like it's written in 1952. It's so far before any thought of like same day delivery. But I
Hmm.
think it's hitting on the same idea of like yeah, like what a great thing. What a great thing. But is it though? Um and so
Yeah. And now we could talk even more about how we're pushed algorithmically, the music that we listen to or the videos we watch on Netflix, like everything's just curated to you, so you have to think about what you want to watch at night.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, for sure. All right, let's hear the East of Ethan.
East of Ethan. Okay, yeah, I'm focused on chapter 12, which is the first chapter to part two of the novel. And I think that it's really cleverly written if we compare it to how part one opened up, opening the whole book up and part one. And I think the main thing I'm trying to get at here in my East of Ethan is I think that Steinbeck is using the turn of the century almost as a metaphor for the new era in Adam and Charles's life with Kathy arriving
Hmm.
that gets set up. And he does this while also mirroring some of the themes that came in from the opening chapter, like how we tend to forget that the hard things in life when life gets going good, we forget the good when life turns sour. Like the quotes where he says, "Where'd all the good stones go? Where's all the simplicity?" You know. And I even think about it sometimes too. When I would go camping growing up, I feel like I could find a skipping stone for like the pond,
Hmm.
like countless good skipping stones. I haven't found a good skipping stone in probably a decade. You know.
Struggle.
So and then even
Me
the
either.
repeating line through the chapter is that strawberries don't taste as sweet as they used to, and the thighs of women have lost their clutch.
I hate it when that
And
happens.
yeah, and I think that because he says that twice and setting us up, that it's letting us know the simplest part of Charles and Adam's lives are over, despite how
Hmm.
messy it was. They'll probably only look back on it fondly. Remember when we were two bachelors living together? My time on the road gang with, I'm sure he had road gang friends. It's they'll look back on it sweetly, but at this point in time, they're only looking forward to what's coming next in this new chapter. Like people are looking forward to the new century.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here. Yeah, the chapter also kind of has the idea of new century, new me. I'm sure they had a really killer New Year's Eve party in 1899. Let's leave
Some
all this horrible
glasses that
stuff in the
put like
1800s.
1899.
Yeah,
Dude, the 1900s glasses, easy, easy. 1900
yep,
on the lenses.
yeah.
Sure, they were doing that.
I like to think they were. And like I kind of said it earlier when we were talking about this, it is pretty funny that Steinbeck wrote the greatest novel on the Depression, and he's talking about how the life in the 1900s is going to be so good, and it only took 14 years for World War One to start, then
Yeah.
a depression, and World War Two, and then the Cold War. Like he's writing this once the Cold War is getting geared up in the early 50s. Like he knows that the century's not great, but he really harnesses that idea of no, this next time in our lives is going to be so good.
That is interesting. I did kind of have that thought, like, oh, he's kind of joking around because that century, like, the 1900s are so interesting. It's so much progress. Like, we
Hmm.
enter it on the heels of the Civil War, um, and like, the 1800s, it's all covered whack. It probably isn't by the end. It is like, and then by the end of the 1900s, like life is so different. But like early 1900s, World War World War One, Great Depression, World War Two. That's the first half, and it's like,
Hmm.
has anyone had it worse? Like,
Hmm.
think of the scale of those conflicts. Like, what a crazy half century. And
Yeah,
then I
there are
was thinking like,
wars every other year. Yeah.
yeah, and then I was thinking about like what if someone like wrote a book in 2052 from like the perspective that Steinbeck's writing this book, and they were like, and then it hit the year 2000 and everything was going to be great, and then like and then like 9/11 next
21
day,
months
like
later.
like
Yeah.
21 months later, the war on terror. um
Yep.
so yeah, I guess things are just going to be bad
Mm,
forever. um
yeah.
what are you
So
going to
so
do?
as I was reading this and trying to make this connection to Adam and Charles, all I could think of was what's coming up isn't what you think it's going to be. We all have these turning points in our lives where we can clearly see like a chapter in our lives ending and a new one beginning.
Hmm.
And one thing that made me think even more that he was alluding to Charles and Adam is the line about self-murder when he brings up the Civil War. Um, he says that the self-murder had settled onto us, and the Civil War is known for being brother versus brother, much like Charles and Adam. And so that's what I was thinking even there too, that okay, the self-murder, did it just happen at the end of part one? Is it about to happen at the beginning of part two with Kathy? But that's happening between the two brothers. And I think that just at the end of it all, Steinbeck is a really clever writer with these introductions to these parts. I can't remember if the subsequent parts in the novel also have like these 2.5 page chapters to kind of set things up,
Hmm.
but I really like the foreshadowing here, using the turn of the century for how Adams and Charles' lives is in the upcoming years.
Interesting. Whew. Good takes. Good use of Ethan. Good stuff. All right, what do we got next here?
Netflix
Oh, our
adaptations.
adaptation notes. Interesting set of chapters when it comes to adaptation. Um, I feel like there's definitely going to be. I wonder how much they'll dramatize, like, because the door's pretty wide open when it comes to like her recovery time. Like that's definitely going to be in there.
Hmm.
Um, we're going to get Florence Pugh all beaten up and sick, and
Yep.
then the boys, kind of fighting over each other. Challengers too. Um, that was my prediction. Didn't I predict last time that she was going to end up with Charles? How wrong? How foolish. Um, Although maybe not. She
We
kind of
don't
did,
know.
didn't she?
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like we're definitely getting. I wonder how they're gonna make the time pass because the injuries are so bad. You can't be like, this is one day. Like they're gonna have to like
Montage.
show. Yeah, but are they gonna montage it? Like
Just maybe
I just don't
montage
know.
really quickly of him nursing her to health. I don't know. Maybe Charles and Kathy are kind of glaring at each other. Like you can tell that they're figuring each other out. It is
Yeah,
interesting. The thing that I think that they need to do is I think that the marriage needs to be a surprise for the audience, much like it is for
but
Charles.
but
I think that
but
might be a land the plane.
but he proposed. Like how could it be? I guess you have him do the proposal. She says she'll think about it, and then you do hear Adam be like, "All right, I'm taking her to the train station. Goodbye." And like you're with Charles that day as he's getting
Yep.
ready, and then when he gets home, it's like they're there. That could work. Yeah, surprise marriage for the audience. Um,
I think because I think that they need some sort of narration if they really want to capture like a lot of the fun little tidbits instead of if they go the route of just we're going to tell a linear story, then they can do that. But the narrator is essential if you want to include like the olive scene in the airplane. Or I think it'd be really cool if they had a narrator for 15 seconds kind of go over that germinating black pool creeping up over the fence,
yeah.
like a weird visual of that.
Here was my one thought, and you're not gonna like this. I don't think they can include the plane scene. I don't think
No,
it. I don't think it, like if you're because I don't know if it's out of left field, but you kind of said it's out of left field. If
yeah,
if that's not in there continually, like I don't see how they can weave that into it. They got to make sacrifices somewhere. It's a fun story and it tells us
hmm,
about Olive, but like it happens years after like the main conflict of the story, like when she's an older mom and she's like a teenager at the time when the conflict is happening.
yeah,
So I just don't know how I don't know how they can tell I don't know how they're going to jump forward and be like, here's what's going to happen in 30 years to Olive, and it's like,
good point. Yeah, you got to leave some of the good stuff for us readers.
yeah. So I don't think the plane can be in there.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Um, I do think I feel like the introduction of Samuel Hamilton. You mentioned there being a narrator. I don't think they'll go voice over narrator to like tell us about the Hamiltons. I think that this where Adam goes to meet Spence. I keep saying Spencer Hamilton. I went to high school with Spencer Hamilton. Samuel Hamilton. I think when he goes to meet Samuel Hamilton, that's gonna be the first time we hear about him. And
I think so
the
too.
same way Steinbeck kind of retells us the Hamilton stories through Samuel's storytelling. Um, that's how we'll get to know the Hamiltons a little bit. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Lewis can give the audience and Adam the
yeah,
rundown on their way
yeah. This
over.
Lewis character will kind of be like, "Oh, well, these are the Hamiltons, yada yada."
Yeah,
He's a good man, say. Um,
for sure.
but yeah, but
Yeah.
I think that this section of the book, then what's mostly going to be in the adaptation is going to be Kathy getting nurse back to help, and then manipulating Adam.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else you
Steinbeck
think
Stats.
is key to include?
No, I think that's about it. I think that covers it. I think around this point, I think it's what, going to be an 8 episode series. I think this is middle of episode 3, end of episode 2, maybe.
Yeah, I think this is episode almost episode 1,
You think so? Okay. Because we're a quarter of the
maybe
way through the
episode
book now.
maybe episode 2. Um, because what do we like the first 6 chapters? I don't even think the show touches those really, unless it's like a flashback.
I think that you need the
I think the
Adam and
show
Charles being
starts with
raised by
her.
Cyrus.
I think the show starts with her as a child, and we see her life, and then the Trasks enter when she crawls to their door, and then when she's getting nursed back to health, we're getting their story through
Oh.
flashbacks, and
Episode
and then
one
that's
ends with her crawling up the steps, and it ends. And then episode 2 starts with a little bit of backstory to lead us. And then halfway through the second episode is when the two converge.
yeah, that could be how they do it. Yeah. Um. Yeah, but I think because you said it's Florence Pugh, right? She's the biggest actress. It's gonna
Yeah.
be on her story. Um. And so yeah, I think yeah, chapter like episode 1 is her life. Episode 2 is her in the Trask's house, getting nursed back to health.
Okay. We'll see if we're
That's my
right.
them's my thoughts. Yeah, Steinbeck notes. Let's hear it. I gotta get water
Steinbeck
again. So you,
stats.
you keep going.
Okay. So um, Steinbeck was notorious for writing his novels by hand, and he wrote in pencil. And to write, plus he was writing his little morning blurbs to his editor Pat in the morning. So all in all, it took Steinbeck 300 pencils to write the manuscript of East of Eden. 300 pencils. I don't know, like how I haven't used a pencil to its end in quite a while, but I doubt it because like 300 pencils, that's like a pencil for every 2 pages. I know that I'm sure he was editing stuff out,
Hmm.
but so one theory that I've seen is Ernest Hemingway would sharpen pencils when he was thinking, and so the theory is that Steinbeck adopted that, and that's why he went through so many pencils.
Interesting. It could just be that handwriting like just doesn't like a page of handwriting is like not a page of typed out words. Like
Yeah.
this has obviously gone by the wayside, but like when I was young, I'm old enough. I'm old enough to remember when in middle school and even entering high school, had to write your essays on paper and turn that in, and then you would type up your final draft. Um, and I remember
Yeah.
always being disappointed at how many pages of type my like 6 or 7 pages of handwritten essay turned into like a page and a half on Microsoft Word.
Hmm.
Um, and so maybe that's just kind of what Steinbeck was dealing with. Because how many pages in this book? 600?
Yep.
So how many pages of handwritten stuff is that? Like 1,200? If is it double? Is it
I think that's
triple? Is
fair.
it 1,800 handwritten pages? Like
Yeah.
could be
Maybe pencils were shorter back then too.
also possible.
And then got one more stat for today, one more fun fact. Steinbeck's childhood home is still around, but it's a restaurant, and it's
Hmm.
Steinbeck themed. Yeah,
Really?
it's
Where is
it's
it?
it's a
We'll have to go.
yeah, it's in yeah. We'll have to go. We can do a review of the food, but
Yeah.
it's in Salinas, and they have looks like from researching their website looks like it was made in like 2008 still.
Okay.
They have alternating monthly menus, it looks like, but the entrees update bi-weekly.
Mm-hmm.
And you can still tour it, but lunch is served by volunteers from 11:30 to 2 on Tuesday through Saturday. If you live in Monterey County, you get 10% off. And so here's what was on the menu this last week: taco stuffed peppers with pozole or
Go
corn and
off.
leek soup, $20 for an entree. And desserts are $10.35, and those appear to alternate weekly. There's no Steinbeck themed food unless you go onto the children's menu, which is called the Red Pony menu. The Red Pony is another novella of his, but one menu item is actually called the East of Eden. What do you think is on the children's menu for the East of Eden?
Is it a grilled cheese?
Nope, you're close. That's another one.
Is it the chicken tendies?
It's PB&J.
Ah,
I
I
know
wasn't
it's
gonna get it.
here's the one that I think you will get. So tortilla flat, another novella. That's
Mm-hmm.
a menu item. What do you think the tortilla flat is?
A taco?
Quesadilla.
Ah, I'm such a
Yeah.
fool. Oh.
But I think they definitely missed out because like that's kind of I think that's a wine country over there, and he wrote the
Mm-hmm.
Grapes of Wrath. It doesn't look like they're really. I think that they could have maybe served complimentary grapes or called their wine menu the Grapes of Wrath wine menu. I think they
Maybe
just
they
missed a
tried.
little bit.
They were like two on the nose.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, but
But yeah,
that is cool.
we
We've got to go. We have to go.
yeah.
Put
If
it
we
on the
blow up
calendar.
and we're invited to the Netflix red carpet premiere of this show, and we
I'm
do
going. I'm
a
going. If even if we don't blow up, I will be there no matter what.
okay.
Um, yeah. There you have it.
All right, some predictions to wrap it up here.
Oh my gosh, I've been so wrong every step of the way. Just nasty wrong. Okay. I'm abandoning my Adam kills Charles take. It doesn't look like that's gonna happen. Um, gosh, I wish I could remember what I said last time. I think I said
I
that.
need to start writing it down, what your
I
predictions
do
are while
too,
you say
yeah.
them. Maybe I wrote, let's see here.
I think I said something about that the conflict was gonna be between Adam and Kathy. I don't even think I knew it was Kathy, between Adam and the Hamiltons. But it doesn't look like that's gonna be an urgent conflict.
Okay, here's your
Um,
predictions.
okay,
Ready?
yeah. Let's hear 'em.
You said Kathy will want the fortune, and you said
Okay.
Kathy marries Charles, Charles kills Adam, takes money and leaves,
I don't,
Kathy
no, no,
goes after him,
I
both
wouldn't
end
have
up in
said Charles
Salinas
kills Adam
Valley.
because we knew Adam was coming in the first chapter, so he's gonna make it to the Salinas Valley. I think
Okay, I guess
I'm
maybe
almost
that was a
certain I would have
joke and I wrote it down.
I'm almost certain I would have said Adam kills Charles.
Okay. Maybe yeah,
Anyway, sorry.
I probably wrote it wrong.
All right, we'll have to listen back. Maybe we're gonna listen. You're gonna listen back, and you're gonna be like, "You definitely said Charles kills Adam, you idiot." Um,
Okay, but
and
I'll write these down here so you can
anyway,
reference them.
what was the most recent one?
The most recent the most recent what?
Prediction?
The Kathy takes the fortune.
Well, I kind of got that one, didn't I? Okay, so I'm gonna go with the baby is Charles's. It feels obvious,
Okay.
but the baby is born. I don't know how they could clearly tell it was Charles because him and Charles are brothers. I'm gonna say Adam does not realize it and doesn't find out, but that Kathy sends a letter to Charles and tells him that she had his baby, and then Charles comes out to find them. But it takes a
Okay.
while. So by the time he gets there, because Steinbeck likes having all this time pass, um, by the time he gets there, the child is like 8 or 9, um, or like a little older, um, and is friends with Olive's son, who is the
Oh,
narrator of
nice.
the book. Yes.
Okay. I
I'm
like
gonna
it.
say that,
That's a good prediction.
yeah, that kid's gonna get born soon. Um, And we're gonna say that Charles comes out and doesn't immediately tell Adam why he's out there. Like he just kind of comes out of a crazy curiosity to meet his child. But he loves Adam, and he doesn't want to tell Adam that he slept with his wife. Um, and so um, he kind of comes out and he acts like he isn't out there to see the child, but he is.
Okay.
And that's going to be our next set of chapters.
Okay. Well, we'll find out.
We will next week on East of Eden.
Next week on East of Eden. Yeah, next week is whatever pages 150 through 200 are in the Centennial Edition.
Let's see. Is there a chapter cut off around 200?
Yeah, let me find it here.
Oh, smack on it. We're
It
going up to
is
we're doing
chapters
15, 16,
15 through
17.
17. Yep.
Yeah. And don't worry, I
Perfect.
didn't read a word on the page. I was just looking at page number,
Okay.
I got the kind of brain that can look at a page full of words and not comprehend anything. So I did not peek.
Okay. Look at it upside down.
Yeah. Don't even have to do that actually. You can look at it right side up for minutes and just not get what's happening.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening. We'll see you here next week.
That's right. And never forget, always remember to never forget to never fly uphill, me boys.